Okay, we are live on YouTube. Reema Didi, you can begin the session.
Shadi, Neer પણ join થઈ ગયો છે સિડનીથી.
Yes. Hi, Neer sir.
નીર તારો અવાજ બંધ છે. હા, હવે બોલ. હા.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi, કેમ છો?
I'm good.
We are
I'm
live
good.
on YouTube.
Thank
Reema
you. Thank
Didi,
you for inviting me.
Shadi, નીર પણ join થઈ ગયો છે સિડનીથી.
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Should we start?
Yes, yes.
Welcome all. The Malad Chamber of Tax Consultants, jointly with Foundation for Skill Development and Lions Club Mumbai, Walkeshwar, welcomes you all to the third session of our series on opportunities for professionals abroad. Well, after successfully conducting Dubai and UK chapter, we are now bringing Australia chapter. So let me first ask everyone one question. How many of us think that the capital of Australia is Sydney or Melbourne? Well, it's actually Canberra. So first mind में जो नाम आता है वो Sydney, Melbourne आता है, but actually it is Canberra. When we were studying, when we study, we came to know about this. Now, Australia is globally famous for its natural wonders, wide space, opens, beaches, deserts, the bush, and the outback. Well, apart from the tourist destination, Australia has more to offer in terms of professional opportunities, which will be highlighted to us today by our speaker, C.A. Rajat Shah. Now I request C.A. Khyati Vasani, President MCTC, to give her opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Malad Chamber of Tax Consultants, I welcome you all to the third part in the series of opportunities for tax professionals abroad. Today, we are deep diving into the country down under, Australia, and the possible opportunities for us tax professionals there. After the success of the two parts, that is Dubai by Speaker C.A. Ronak Parekh and UK by C.A. Harjeet Waghani, we were looking for a very young and dynamic speaker to continue the series. I'm thankful to C.A. Viresh Shah for suggesting a very befitting speaker today. C.A. Rajat Shah, a CA ranker himself with 15 years of global experience. He's the right person to guide us through his fascinating journey. Over 4% of population in Australia is of Indian origin, and the number is only growing. The Indian community in Australia is the second largest and fastest growing overseas group, and the opportunities are plenty. I'm grateful to the Foundation for Skill Development and Lions Club of Mumbai Walkeshwar, CA Alok Mehta and Sachin Gandhi for supporting the Malad Chamber in their endeavor to help tax professionals. I'm sure this session is going to be a great learning experience for all the attendees. Our next event is on the 9th of June. It's by esteemed speakers CA Janak Waghani and CA Avinash Ravani at Saraf College, the details of which will be shared with you by CA Reema Shah at the end of the session. Thank you. I end my opening remarks.
Thank you, CA Khyati. Now I request CA Alok Mehta, President of Foundation for Skill Development and Lions Club Mumbai Walkeshwar, to give his opening remarks.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Reema. On behalf of the Lions Club Mumbai Walkeshwar, I really thankful to Malad Chamber of the MCTC and my own Foundation for Skill Development, Khyati Masani and Sachin Gandhi, entire team for conducting the third series of Australia. I think it is a wonderful opening we received for last two chapters, and I think that has been truly appreciated by many members. This type of series, I think, going once in India, I think that we are counting that any professional who want to do a practice in abroad. So this type of series help them a lot. I think in the Dubai, what we have did it, I think many of the professionals want to go for the Dubai and they've got the good knowledge and all. So from the Lions Club, I think we got the tremendous response and a feedback that this type of series should continue and all. And in fact, Lions Club Mumbai Walkeshwar, as usual, you are knowing that we are the NGO and we are doing the charity project. This is our 165 charity project, you can say, through education during this term 23-24. And I thank the entire team of Lions Club Mumbai Walkeshwar. Absolutely, I thank my team, Foundation for Skill Development, Sachin, Hiral, Dilip, Devanshi, and all that we are putting the skill development through MCTC. So it is wonderful session. And once again, Rajat Bhai, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate that you are taking the time and we love to hear you. And thanks to our dynamic president, Khyati Vasani ji, President MCTC. Thank you so much that we are, this time the term has been done wonderful. We thankful that this type of series are going on. and new creative ideas are going. This is what we want, that new ideas are keep coming and we are doing wonderful. Thank you once again. Let's learn together and make ourselves be a part of the Australia as early as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alok sir. Now I request Sachin Gandhi, Director for Foundation for Skill Development and past President of MCTC, to give his opening remarks.
Thank you, Rima madam. First of all, a very good morning to one and all. Rajat bhai, first of all, very thanks to you for accepting our invitation for delivering today's lecture. Frankly, this session is the innovative idea of our President Alok Mehta and Khyati Vasani. Okay, getting abroad, see, India, we have all the sources, we are having all the sources, what the lectures we are trying to get it, we are getting it done through all the channels. But it was the idea of the President Foundation for Skill Development, Alok Mehta and Khyati Vasani, to start a series. Okay, what is the professional opportunities across the globe? So first of all, I'm very much thankful for both the president for a great vision, and at the same time, all the speakers who are coming and delivering their lecture, and we are thankful. I'm on behalf of Foundation for Skill Development, Malad Chamber. We are thankful to all the speakers. Rajab, I think this lecture, I'm sure, not going to help the professional, but I think we are also having many students. So this is the theme of our Foundation for Skill Development is to bring the skills inside the youth of India, which is our main objective. See, already everybody is having, but there are few skills which go unnoticed in oneself. So we are making it initiative. So even the opportunities and the growth, which is all the opportunities we are having all over India, would be very, very helpful to all of us. So I'm very much thankful for you, and I'm thankful again to Foundation for Skill Development and Malad Chamber, my own association, even Foundation for Skill, my own association, for taking this initiative. And I think we we are having a target of keeping around 7 series, or we'll try to cover each and every part of the globe. So I think hopefully we'll be coming with a very next session. I think I had spoke with both the president. We are planning to have a session in Canada. I think it will be also announced very shortly. Professional opportunity for a professional as well as for students at Canada. So once again, thank you, and wish you all, everybody, a very happy learning. Thank you. Over to you, Rimadi. Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin sir. Now let me introduce our learned speaker today, CA Rajat Shah. He is an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and a CPA at Australia. He has over 15 years of global experience in auditing, investigations, finance, and accounting functions within retail, leisure, financial services, and professional services. Currently, he works as the Audit and Investigations Manager at Woolworths Group Company Limited, the largest retailer in Australia. Here he is responsible for labor rights governance within Woolworths Operations Services supply chains across Australia and New Zealand. Prior to this, he has worked in various capacities with multiple corporations in India and Australia in their finance and governance functions. Over the years, he has also been active with various professional organizations, including being a committee member of the Brisbane chapter of ICAI, the Brisbane chapter of the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, and a treasurer at the Brisbane chapter of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. He is a passionate number cruncher, but equally well versed with process, systems, and internal controls, a combination of which results in optimal operations for an organization. A patient listener with an equal measure of curiosity and attention to details. He is known to partner with stakeholders to improve enterprise efficiency, risk management, and governance practices. His latest interests are generative AI, blockchain, especially around how these technologies will transform the way we work and transact in the world. As PA Khyati Vasani told, let's explore the opportunities for the fastest number of Indians growing land of Australia with CA Rajat Shah. Welcome, Rajat sir, and over to you now.
Thank you, Rima. And a pleasure being here with all our members, some of the senior members as well. And before I start, I would just like to really appreciate what you guys are doing, working together. Khyati, Sachin bhai, Alok bhai, Virej bhai. I think it is of paramount importance that we empower our youth to, and we educate them on what opportunities are available across the world, especially for chartered accountants and people from our field, cost accountants, chartered accountants, tax consultants. we've now when I came to Australia in 2014, I was surprised to know that our Indian CA degree is well recognized. The degree as well as the experience is well recognized in a country like Australia. So I didn't have to study any further. I didn't have to whatever experience I had in India, whatever degree I had in India, that was recognized by my employer. And I was accordingly, I got a job in the right sort of area at the right designation. So on that note, let's begin. And hopefully you are able to see my screen. Awesome. Well, you must be wondering what is the current screen all about. Does someone want to make a guess? Well, being mindful of the time, I won't be able to give you much time, maybe 30 seconds. Someone wants to make a guess. But let's get into it. So on the left, you can see a practicing chartered accountant in India can explore opportunities around professional consultancy services, BPO, KPO, outsourcing in summary, or a chartered accountant or a tax consultant or a CS or a ICWA in employment in India can work in the finance field, tax field, accounting field, in audits, investigations, or risk management. And there are other fields as well where you've got opportunities in Australia. So, well, let's begin the session. I want to welcome all of you. And what I've tried to do is in this webinar, give you intermediate level of information on opportunities that are available currently to practicing accountants, experienced professionals, and even newly qualified chartered accountants and students. And what can they do being in India or migrating to Australia in our fields? So I'm going to talk a bit about the opportunities, the potential challenges that we can face when you are trying to seize these opportunities, and what's the way ahead. So before I commence, I would like to express my gratitude to obviously MCTC, the Foundation for Skills Development, as well as the Lions Club, and all of you guys, respective presidents and members of the committee. It is my pleasure being here and speaking to all of you, and obviously to the entire audience for taking their time. So since this is a webinar, although I've worked with Kathy in the past few days, tried to sort of streamline and make sure we have a smooth and clear interface. If there are any inadvertent technical issues, please bear with us while we go through it. What I sort of want to do, or what we want to do, is try and keep this session interactive as well as conversational. Let's make this a dialogue. This is not a one-way communication. I want to share as much knowledge with you guys as possible in the next 60 minutes. However, I'm also interested in your questions, because this session is about you, not about me. So whatever questions you have, please feel free to raise your hands. And Kathy, please, if you can stop me if someone has a question. And I'll try to answer all of your questions before we end the session today. So just a bit of housekeeping. We'll just make sure that everyone is on mute. Unless you have a question, please raise your hand and unmute yourself. Thank you. So on that note, just a bit more on myself, and then we'll get into what Australia is all about. So I'm obviously a Mumbai boy. I've lived in Mumbai, raised and brought up in Mumbai for 29 years of my life. Migrated to Australia in 2014 on a permanent resident visa. I've done my Bachelor's of Commerce from Mithibai College. All of us know what Mithibai means to Mumbai people. And I've done my CA in 2000, cleared my CA final in 2009. and CPA Australia in 2015. So, well, not as qualified as a lot of CAs are, but obviously once I came to Australia, I realized CA is recognized worldwide. And with our institute getting into the MRAs, mutual recognition agreements with a lot of countries, Canada, Australia, UK, Ireland, even a small country like Ireland recognizes us Indian CA degree. So just the picture on the screen, well, that was my favorite hangout joint, is the library in Borivali. I don't even remember the full name now. But the last couple of 6 to 8 months, I used to study there for my
Prabodhan
CA
Thakre, sir.
finals.
Prabodhan
Prabodhan
Thakre
Thakre.
Library.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. So, in terms of my experience, I did my articleship in Sudhit K. Parekh and Company. I started in their international tax and transfer pricing team, and then eventually moved to Deloitte in their internal audit team. And the last year of my articleship, I did it with my father, who had a boutique firm in Borivali. So I've sort of done the length and breadth of it, worked with a big four and worked with a small firm. And once I finished my articleship in 2010, I joined the National Stock Exchange of India in their inspections team and worked with NSE for 3 years. And our team, which was a team of 50 then, we used to look after the western part of India. So while working with NSE, I almost traveled almost all the western states in India, and that sort of put a seed in me that I need to travel and explore more. So after NSE, I joined Principal Financial Group in 2013, and Principal Financial Group at the time, it is still a US company, but at the time they were setting up their operations in India. And I was fortunate to work with a senior risk director there. And it was just a team of two of us, the director and myself. And we set up the risk management function in the team, in the company there. So while working with Principal Financial Group, I used to regularly interact with their team based in US. And there I realized the culture, the corporate culture outside of India or in US, and the corporate culture in India was very different. Because the culture there was very sort of, it was a flat organization, whereas in India, it's a very hierarchical organization structure that I think even to this day continue. So then I sort of made up my mind I want to go out of India and try and, long story short, I did a lot of research and realized Australia and Canada were the only two countries which would give a permanent resident visa to a migrant. So I applied for a PR visa in December 2013. And in February 2014, on one hand, I had the Australian PR visa. On the same day, on the other hand, I had a very lucrative offer from the City Group, which offered me almost, I think at the time, maybe 50% over my current pay. And again, I was like, what do I do? But eventually, with the support of parents and my wife, and obviously the in-laws, we agreed to migrate to Australia. And in June 2014, I landed in Sydney. I worked with Ardent Leisure Limited in the corporate governance team as an internal auditor and investigator for the next 3 years from 2014 to 2000 end of 2016. And I traveled in those 3 years. I traveled more than 170,000 kilometers by road across the length and breadth of Australia for audits. So at the time, a lot of people used to tell me you've traveled more, you've seen more of Australia than people who have lived here all their life. So that was a really good experience. And in 2016 December, I started working with Woolworths Group Limited, which is the largest retailer in Australia, in their internal audit team. And in 2017, the Modern Slavery Act was introduced in Australia. It was effective from 2019. But one of the senior board members of Woolworths, whom I had done an audit for, he said, we have to set up a team. Would you be interested in setting up a new team? We will. And I remember I had a long conversation with him and I said, I don't know anything in this area. I will have to read the act. I'll have to understand the rules and regulations, but I can do it provided these are my terms. And luckily, they accepted all my terms and conditions. And I got into this role as an auditor and investigator and got a promotion a year later as a manager. And currently, I manage the team as a senior, as a manager and a subject matter expert. So what they do is every year they give me, this is the mandate from the board, and they leave it with me. How you want to achieve it, you decide. So in a good place currently and happy with where I am. But that is it about me. From here onwards, it is all about you guys. So the agenda for today is, let's look at what is Australia from a legislative perspective. What are the opportunities for members in practice? What are the opportunities for experienced professionals in employment? What are the opportunities for aspiring and young professionals, including students? How can you migrate to Australia? What are the different pathways available? And any questions and answers that you have. So let's look at Australia, the country. So Australia is almost an area of 7.7 million square kilometers with a population of 26 million as per 2022 census. So if I put that in perspective, Mumbai's population in 2022 was 21 million people. So the size of Australia, it's the sixth largest country in the world. And the size of Australia is 13 times the size of Mumbai. But the population density of Australia is 3 people per square kilometer. Population density of Mumbai is 57,000 people per square kilometer. So when I first landed in Sydney in 2014, I was wondering, where are the people? Because in Mumbai, I saw nothing else but people. In Australia, I couldn't find anyone. Australia, as I think Rima pointed out earlier, the capital of Australia is not Sydney, but Canberra. It consists of 6 states: New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia, South Australia, and Tasmania, and 2 territories, Australian Capital Territory and Northern Territory. So I am located in Queensland in the city of Brisbane. The currency of Australia is Australian dollar, which is currently around 55 Indian rupees for $1. And the financial year in Australia is different to the financial year in India. So the year here starts on the 1st of July and ends on the 30th of June. Let me share a couple of fun facts about Australia. So about 85% of Australia's population lives within 50 kilometers of a beach. The reason is the center of Australia is a red hot desert. So once you go within or outside 150 kilometers of a beach, everything is a desert. And there are about 12,000 beaches in Australia. So if you visit one beach a day, it will take you about 33 years to visit all the beaches. So let's look at the Australian system of government. So the Australian system is similar to the Indian system. It's a federation of states. They have their own constitution. People elect their representatives to the upper house and the lower house. The upper house, which is the Rajya Sabha in India, Here they call it the House of Lords or the Senate. And the lower house, which is our Lok Sabha, they call it the House of Commons. And it is a democracy. However, and Australia was a British colony just like India. When they received their independence was on the 1st of January 1901, when the British Parliament passed legislation enabling the 6 Australian colonies to collectively govern themselves in their own right. However, one major difference between Australia and India is India is a democracy, Australia is a constitutional monarchy. What does that mean? Well, when we used to study, we used to be told that our freedom fighters always spoke about Sampurna Swaraj or full freedom. Well, only after I migrated to Australia and understood the Australian system of government, I realized that Australia is still a monarchy, constitutional monarchy, meaning the King of Britain is still the constitutional head of Australia. So he is still like the president of Australia. However, the prime ministers and the entire council of ministers are elected by people as part of a democratic process. So this is the importance when we spoke about, when our freedom fighters spoke about Sampurna Swaraj, they meant we want nothing of British in our country. And whereas Australia till date is still sort of presided by the king or the queen of UK. So on that note, let's look at what is the Australian taxation system. So similar to India, because everything is quite similar, the taxation system here is also similar. We've got direct taxes and indirect taxes. The predominant direct tax is personal income tax, which is imposed on the personal income of an individual on a progressive rate basis. So same as India, we've got a marginal rate of tax for individuals, which goes up to the highest slab here is 45% plus,
कौन से एग्रीमेंट कहा?
sorry. So the highest rate of tax here is 45% plus 2% medical levy, whereas the highest tax rate for personal income tax in India, I think is 30%, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me because I'm not aware of the latest rates. So as per a 2023 OECD report, Australia ranks as one of the highest taxed countries in the world. So then we also have, in terms of direct taxes, we've got the capital gains tax. So capital gains tax is again similar to India. It sort of applies to a capital gain made on the disposal of an asset, obviously with specific exemptions like inheritance and stuff like that, which are standard. However, the way the capital gains tax is calculated is quite different. So for example, in India, if you have a long-term capital asset, then you get taxed on the profit from the sale of that asset as per the capital gains rates. Whereas in Australia, if you have a capital asset that you sell, then the profit from the sale of that asset gets added to your annual income for that year. And the total income for that year is then taxed on the marginal rate or that applies to you for that year. So this is the only major difference between the capital gains tax in India and here. Then obviously they've got a corporations tax as well, which is 30% for big corporations and 25% for small businesses. I think even in this case, Indian corporate tax rate, I think latest is 22%. So even there, Australia is dearer compared to India. And they've got some trustee liability taxes, which are similar to India, where the income of a trust is tax to a meeting my shoot. Okay. Mamma ne ke. Please. Where the income of a trust is taxed to a trustee if the beneficiaries of a trust are a minor or non-resident beneficiaries. Now, in terms of indirect tax, we've got similar to India, we've got GST, goods and service tax. So GST here was introduced in July 2020, whereas in India it was introduced in July 2017. But the GST here is quite simple. It's a flat rate of 10% on the provision of goods and services, with certain exceptions which are taxed either at higher rates, or there are some exceptions like fresh fruit, fresh food, which is not taxed under GST. Similar to GST in India, the revenue from GST is distributed to the states, and state governments do not levy any sales tax here. However, they do impose stamp duties and stuff like that. So, but overall, if I look at the GST in India and GST in Australia, the GST in Australia is way simpler than the GST in India. Then we've got property tax for local governments. We've got excise duty imposed on certain products like cigarettes, petrol, alcohol. We've got a luxury car tax for vehicles which are valued over a certain threshold. We've got, similar to India, we've got customs duty, payroll tax, and fringe benefit tax, which is quite well known now. So that's the broad taxation system in Australia. Let's look at what are the opportunities, why there is an opportunity for practicing accountants in India to work with people in Australia. What are those opportunities? How can we grab those opportunities? What could be the potential challenges? And what is the solution or the way forward? So hopefully by the end of the session, you guys will have a clear picture on what opportunities are available for you and how can you encash those opportunities. So let's look at, so number 2, just being mindful of the time, I'll go through this. So I want to go through this in a bit of a detail. Number 2, India is currently number 2 in the world in terms of the outsourcing business. So number 1 is Philippines. Number 2 is India as an outsourcing hub for all services, including accounting and finance. Why is India rated so high when it comes to outsourcing? So because India has got the best and most reputable professionals in the world. Now we all know some of the biggest countries in the world currently have got Indian CEOs. I don't have to mention Google, Microsoft, Adobe. You all know about it. We've got a highly skilled talent pool. I think the way our system is, the education system, the social structure, the way we are brought up, the way the work ethics, then we've got a very strong talent pool. And the demographics of India for the next 50 years, we've got the youngest population in the world. English language skills, we are the second largest English speaking population in the world. Second largest after the United States. And you'll be surprised the third largest is actually Pakistan, but it is very distinct. So India closely follows the US. I can know in the next few years we may even overtake US in terms of our English language speaking population. Cost effective and high quality service. See, when people outsource from overseas to India, even if they pay the best rates to an Indian company, they end up saving at least 50 to 60% on what they incur in these countries. And even their 50% to us in India, will result in exponential growth for people who are in practice and who are outsourcing or doing an outsourcing practice from these overseas countries. And obviously, we are from ages and ages. Indian population is known for its hard work and values and ethics. One of the most sincere population in the world is definitely Indian population. So on that note, let's look at what are the opportunities that are available to a practicing accountant in India. So what I've done is I've classified them into two broad categories. One is repetitive task, more like a KPO, a knowledge process outsourcing business. And the other is consultancy, where you are doing value add services for clients located overseas. Whereas a KPO is more for you are servicing an accountant or a practicing accountant in these countries. So in terms of tedious, repetitive, non-core task, we can obviously provide bookkeeping and data entry services. I don't have to explain any of these services. All of you would be well aware. If you have a question, please ask me to stop and I can sort of explain more in detail. You can also get accounts receivables, payables, and provide payroll services. You can provide tax service, GST service. BAS is business activity service. So it's more like a profit and loss account that companies here have to file every quarter, depending on the size of the company. And financial reporting, budgeting, forecasting. Obviously, we all know what that means. And then you can also provide some consulting value add services such as management and project accounting, business advisory, including ratio analysis and key performance indicators, virtual CFO services, where you're managing the entire finance function for a client located overseas. And obviously you can help them with process mapping and efficiency improvements. I'd just like to share one very small example, real life example that I have. So when we first migrated to Australia, obviously I didn't have kids, and you saw one of my adorable daughters just a couple of minutes ago. So we didn't have kids, and every weekend I used to go out and about and visit the local stores and speak to the cafe owners, restaurant owners, store owners, and tell them if they wanted to share their PNL with me, I can work on their PNL for a couple of weeks and come back to them with a proposal which will help them at least increase their profits by 20%. So I used to go out every weekend, every Saturday, and meet a couple of business owners and local people and try and help them. I didn't never charged anyone for anything, but I also wanted, we were new to a country. I wanted to learn what this is all about. What do they do? How do they do things? What I realized was a lot of people, business owners, unlike an Indian business owner who understands their numbers. If they are doing a business, they know what they are doing. people here are doing a business, they don't know their numbers. So when I started working with these guys, I started going back to them, and for example, there was a cafe owner, and I went back to him after doing my analysis and went back and said, if you increase, if you increase the sale of so and so product, your profits will go up by at least 20%. And it wasn't this simple. I'm just summarizing it for you. And then he got interested, and I worked with him for a couple of weekends. And then I presented him with a detailed report. And then obviously I forgot all about him. And 6 months later, he came back to me and he said, I want to offer you some money because you did this for me 6 months ago. And since then, my profits have increased by 30%. So, just long story short, there's a lot of opportunity for Indian CAs to provide value to businesses across the world, not just in Australia. Because the people here, if they are doing business, they don't understand their numbers. We understand their numbers, and we can go back and consult them and make life easy for them. So now we've understood what the opportunity is. How can we grab these opportunities? What can we do to get these opportunities? So again, I've divided it into two sections. One is you can provide service to a service provider. So you tie up with a local accountant and you tell them, I'm your back office in India. So you sit here, you manage your clients. I will manage everything else from India. So why is this? So this has always been my preference when people come to me and say, what can we do? So I always tell them, you start this way. Why? Because what happens is if you tie up with a local accountant, the local accountant's success depends on your success. So if you are successful, they are successful. If you are not successful, they will suffer. So it is in their interest to make you successful. So if you provide service to a service provider, what they will provide you is support and training. They will train your staff. They will provide you support that you need. They will give you all the resources. The systems here are different. The accounting periods are different. The terminology is different. Although the principles remain the same, now there is still a lot to learn. And if you work with a service provider, you learn all of that. It gives you regular work, high volume work. So you'll have a lot of work. You won't be short of work. And it will give you a stable cash flow, although it will be low margin because you are servicing an accountant, but you've got stable cash flows coming in every month. Most importantly, you won't have any overheads. You don't have to worry about marketing. You don't have to worry about advertising. You don't have to worry about client acquisition. How will I acquire a client sitting in India and the client is located in Australia? You don't have to worry about all of that. And obviously you don't have to directly deal with the client, because although we speak English, although we speak, the way they pronounce certain words, the way we pronounce those words, it's quite different. Their culture is very different. Our culture is very different. So connecting with a client takes time. So before you go and approach clients, always better to work with an accountant, set up your systems, understand what you need, and be ready that when a client comes to you, you've got everything in place. What I've also done is put a list where you can find the local CPAs and CAs across Australia. So if you want to, you can click on that link and you can type the name of the city and it will give you a list of chartered accountants or CPAs who are practicing in those cities. And then you can maybe send them emails or cold calls, just try and gauge from them if they're open to an opportunity to outsource. And I can tell you a lot of them are. So what's the second option is to provide service directly to a client. So you become the professional consultancy for a client. So this is obviously high value, high margin. However, it will need you to have a relevant setup in Australia or whatever country you're thinking of. So you'll need to have local presence in the country in terms of either an office or a representative who's located overseas and representing you to the clients, becoming your sort of eyes, ears, and foot on the ground for the clients. Obviously, you need a qualified, experienced team because, again, as I said, although the degree is recognized, although the principles are quite similar, I'll come in one of the later slides. I'll come in the challenges part. I'll come to the topic of, if you are a chartered accountant in India, you can do anything. So you can work as a tax agent, you can work as a financial advisor, you can work as an accountant, you can work as XYZ. Whereas in Australia, for everything, you need a separate license. So if you want to work as a tax agent, you need a license from the Tax Practitioners Board. If you want to work as a financial advisor, you need a license from the Australian Financial Services Board. If you want to work as an accountant, you need the relevant certificate of practice from CPA or CA. So there are a lot of licensing requirements which need to be sorted out before you can establish yourself and represent directly to a client. Then obviously you'll have marketing and overhead cost. You'll have to, you might have your own local presence here. You may have building and maintenance, and you may have your staff here. You may have to pay people local wages, so wages in Australian dollars, and so on and so forth. You'll have to obviously manage clients. You'll be directly interacting with the clients. So although this is high value, high margin work, the cash flow may not be stable. You may have clients, let's say it is tax season, and you may have clients for those 3 months. But for the rest of the year, you may be struggling to find clients. However, once you have sufficient systems, capabilities, establishment in place, obviously providing service to a client makes much more sense, and it is highly lucrative, way more lucrative than providing service to a accountant. And what I've done with this one is there are different accounting systems in Australia, Xero being one of the largest. Those accounting system providers also maintain a database of service providers who use their systems and companies who use their system. So you can click on that and you can get a list of companies and people who use Xero, and you can contact them if you want. So that's just for reference. So now, how can we capitalize on these opportunities? So now we've so far looked at why is there an opportunity? What is the opportunity? And now we're looking at how can we capitalize on these opportunities. So what will you need to set up your presence in Australia? So you'll definitely need an Australian business number. So it's like a company number in India. So I put the link here. So if you click on the link, it will take you to the Australian taxation website where you can register your company with an Australian business number. It's a 16-digit number, unique number for each company. So you use that number for all your taxation and corporate paperwork purposes. So you'll definitely need an Australian business number. The individual partners within a firm will need tax file numbers. So tax file number is similar to our PAN number. So it's unique to each individual. You will have to register for GST as well. So GST, but it's only applicable if your GST turnover per annum is $75,000 or more. You will have to have, as I mentioned in the last slide, you'll have to have relevant licenses. So you'll have to have a certificate of practice, a tax license, or a financial advisor license. If you want to do insurance, then you need to have an insurance license as well, from license from an insurance body as well. And then last and final, this, although I'm not sure how big this is in India, this is quite big overseas, professional indemnity insurance. Because you need to have, if you are in practice, you need to have a professional indemnity insurance, which basically insures you in case a client sort of lodges a complaint against you or is not happy with your professional advice or your work. So definitely happens in these countries. We don't hear it in India. There's hardly ever a case where a client sues a CA or a tax consultant or a CS. So yeah, these are your basic requirements, and all of them I've put the links there. So you can click on the link, go to the website, have a look yourself, and get an understanding of the details required. So now, what are the major challenges when it comes to setting these things up? So I've again divided it into two parts. What is the challenge for you as an outsourcing service provider? And what is the challenge for your client? So again, being mindful of the time, I'm just going to do it myself. So I've initially wanted to, just involve you guys. But let's quickly go through this as well. So the biggest challenge for you guys located back home in India is the skill set. So although the overall system is quite similar, there are differences in the laws, differences in the rules, differences in the regulations. Obviously, we are quite qualified as per Indian laws. However, we still need to have the experience in Australian laws. So, and that's where I go back and say always preferable if you are starting out on the outsourcing journey to start providing service to a service provider, because then they will teach you everything which will fill that gap. So the skills, which is your biggest challenge, will be resolved. Obviously, there are nuances in different industries as well. So each industry has got slightly different rules and regulation. Real estate will have a different way of doing things. Restaurants will have a different way of doing things. A professional accounting service will have a different way of doing things. So depending on where your client, the industry of your client, your accounting software, your accounting tools, your accounting systems, your the application of relevant laws, rules, regulations will be slightly different. And obviously software expertise in India, we Tally is the go-to system, or that was at least the go-to system when I was there 10 years ago. Here you've got Zero, you've got MYOB, you've got a lot of other systems which would be similar to Tally, but obviously with their own particular differences in terms of the way they are used. So that's about you guys. This is a basic challenge for someone who's starting out on an outsourcing journey. How do I develop the skill set required to service clients overseas? Now, this is one part of the challenge. The other part of the challenge is the challenge for your client, because your client is has an equal challenge. Their challenge is how will they trust you? You are based overseas. You are based in a different country. They are based in a different country. why should they, sorry, why should they trust you? So their challenges are basically trust. Trust around what? Trust around how do they manage the project with you? How do they control the project with you? How do they ensure the privacy and security of their information that they are sharing with you? How do they negotiate the timing differences? For example, the time here currently is 4:30. The time in India is 12 o'clock. So we are 4.5 hours ahead of you. The time currently in Canada is 2:30 in the night. So how do you manage the timing difference? How do you manage the difference in the reporting periods? As I said, the tax returns tax year here is July to June. In India is April to March. The GST periods here will be different to what you have in India. And the last one is how do you manage the difference in the language and cultural compatibility? But as I said, language, English, we are all good. We all can speak and understand English really well. But culturally, we are still two different cultures. Here, as I said, if you go and work in a corporate, the structure is very flat. For example, I work as a manager or a subject matter expert, and I have an open line of communication with the director. Whereas in India, if I work as a manager, I can't go beyond my senior manager. So a lot of cultural nuances that will need to be sort of worked with. And how do we then, for you guys, how do you build that trust with the client? And then going back to what is the solution and how do we overcome this? I've already told you one way is to, well, collaborate with local accountants. They will help you with everything. So let's look at what is the way forward. So the current market size of the outsourcing industry just for finance and accounting is worth $41.28 billion. And I've got this from a LinkedIn research report. And touch 565,000 crore Indian rupees by 2028. So for us located in India, it's a journey where the aspiration is global, but you have to have local representation. What do I mean by that? Well, collaborate with accountants. They will help you in understanding what the rules are, regulations are, and so on and so forth. And once you have the systems, once you have the capabilities in place, create your own local presence. This is where the fun is. However, the hard work is required in the first part, where you need to set up your own systems, set up the capabilities within your teams. That yes, now I have a team that understands Australian laws, that understands the systems, that understands and which are capable to work for those clients on a daily basis. Once you have that, then you can create a local presence and start servicing local clients located overseas. So this is, if I have to summarize, this is all about the opportunity for the members who are in practice and who want to now expand globally. So now, sorry, any questions, Rima? I'll stop here for 2 minutes.
I'll request anyone who has questions to please unmute yourself and ask.
Did it make sense to everyone?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Hopefully
I
it
think it
did.
made a good.
Good,
Yes, sir.
super. Super.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rajat bhai,
Sir,
I
I
have
would like to ask a question.
Yes, definitely.
Sir, if we want to invest in property, so what are the norms over there? Are there any restrictions for a newly professional uh, staying abroad, staying in Australia?
So are you talking about personal property or property for a firm?
Both, sir.
Buying
Both.
a house or buying a office?
Uh, both, sir. Either commercial office as well as a house.
House. So in terms of buying a house, well, you can buy a house. There's no restriction. If you're overseas, you can still buy in Australia. So no issues at all as long as you have the funds. So I don't think so. As far as I know, the banks wouldn't fund if you're located overseas. They wouldn't give you a loan. So as long as you have all the money to buy a house, well, you can definitely, I can sell a house to you.
Okay.
But in terms of a professional office, well, definitely we'll have to have the ABN number, the GST registration, because they'll be asking us what service are you going to provide, what turnover are we expecting. Then obviously they'll be asking for the TFN for an individual representative who will be representing the company in Australia.
Okay.
So that's a bit tricky, as in tricky but not complicated. We
Right.
can still do it.
Okay. And sir, in the start, as in someone goes there, so mostly rented properties would be a better option in the start.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
if
when I
the
migrated
rented,
in 2014, I landed in Sydney, as I said. And then 3 months in Sydney, I was living with my cousin. And then I got this job with Arden Leisure. And they said, we need you to relocate to Brisbane. I said, I can relocate anywhere in the world. You tell me where you want me to go. So when we came to Brisbane, we were renting in the city for a couple of months. And then we bought our first property in Australia after 2 years.
okay.
I had one
So
question,
renting is
Rima.
not an issue.
Sorry.
Renting is not an issue. We can easily get the rented properties, right, sir?
Currently, it's a bit of an issue because demand supply, the supply is very limited. After
Okay.
COVID, they've had a lot of migrants come in. So there's a
Okay.
big lot of demand for rental properties. It's a bit difficult currently, but when I came, there was no issue. We easily got a rental.
Okay.
વિજય મારા ક્વેશ્ચન છે કે સપોઝ ઇન્ડિયન ચાર્ટર્ડ અકાઉન્ટ છે એવી which type of skills Australian employer can looking for that or otherwise or else you can suggest any additional qualification required for a young chartered accountant for working in Australia.
Definitely. I will answer your question, Virej, by in the next few slides.
Yeah, sure.
Because I have that covered for
Yeah,
professionals who are in employment and for young chartered accountants as well.
yes, no problem, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. This is Ankita.
Hi, Ankita.
Hi. Actually, I'm currently pursuing Inter CA in India. So my question is, if we stop, can we do CPA once we have completed CA over here? And do you suggest to stop CA and then go do CPA in Australia?
I have a slightly different view, Ankita. Can I answer that in one of the following slides? I'm going to cover it in the slides for students.
Sure, sir. Sure.
But very in short, if I have to answer your question, I will strongly recommend you complete your CA
Okay.
and do your CPA after that. And I'll tell you why in the slide.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yeah.
I think we'll take the questions at the end of the session once Rajat sir has completed his session.
All good, all good. Alok bhai, did you have a question before I go back?
No, at the end only. You complete your thing and I'll see
Done,
whether how
done,
can I
done.
come to Australia now.
Well,
Okay.
you can come here on a visitor visa. We can host you for a couple of months.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, coming back to the presentation. So, what are the opportunities for members in employment? So, I'll answer your question here, Viresh bhai, as part of this. So, members in
Yes.
employment, I'm talking about people who are experienced professionals with at least 5 to 10 years, 15 years of experience being in employment in India. So some of the options, easier options that you guys have is working in an offshore office for an accounting firm like Deloitte's will have something, KPMG will have their own. Even small and medium accountants have got their, they are all expanding overseas now. I've got a couple of acquaintances in Australia who do their outsourcing work from India. So they service clients here. However, they've got an office in India as well. So, and some of you, I think at least a couple of people on this call will also be outsourcing in some form in some country, especially some of our young practicing accountants will be doing that. So yes, experienced professionals definitely have an opportunity to work in offshore offices for global accounting firms, or Australian companies have presence in India as well. So I can give you one example, Woolworths. We have a team of 5,000 people located in India, in Hyderabad, but it's our IT function. And our accounting function, I think we've got 50 odd people based in Delhi who do our accounting from Delhi. And the chief data officer for Woolworths is an Indian. His name is Mr. Amitabh Mall. Since he's come on board 2 years ago, he has created a team of 450 people based in Bangalore who only do data analytics for Woolworths. They are all Woolworths employees based in India. So there are opportunities in India to work for Australian companies. And I'm talking about Woolworths because I know Woolworths, I work for Woolworths. However, other big Australian companies like Telstra is the largest telecom provider in Australia. They have got a big team in India as well. Our competitor Coles, they've got a big team in India as well. So a lot of big businesses have already got setups in India. How do you apply? I do not know at this stage but there will be recruiters in India who would be recruiting only for overseas companies. So hopefully one of you guys can find which are those recruiting companies and can let one of the committee members know. But I tried to find that out, I couldn't. So I apologize for that. But definitely opportunities for experienced professionals to work from India for companies located overseas, including Australia. The other option is to migrate to Australia, and I'll come to that option in detail in the last slide. You can come here on a student visa, working holiday visa, or even a visitor visa. But the best option that I always recommend to people who ask me is come here on a permanent resident visa. And come to the details in the last slide. So to your question, Viresh bhai, some of the highly in demand skills that currently employers are after is data analytics, big data, international tax, transfer pricing. Some of our bread and butter skill sets like internal audit, external audit, investigation, they are always in demand. I am located in Brisbane. Sydney is the financial capital of Australia. But because it's such a small market, the population is only 26 million people, which is currently the population of Mumbai. So people here know each other quite well. So I get so many opportunities at least once every 6 months. People call me and say, "Do you want to work for us? But you need to be based in Sydney." But I don't want to relocate to Sydney. That's why I continue working with Woolworths. But once you get in the market is so small that you will easily get your second, third, fourth, fifth job. It's just your first job that's a bit challenging because obviously for an employer, they are thinking, oh, he's coming from India. Will he be a good fit in my company? Whereas you yourself are not confident. Well, I'm coming from India. I don't know these guys. If I speak English, will they understand? Will they not understand? If they speak, will I understand? So the first job is a bit challenging, but once you are in the market, people know each other. And once they realize the quality of your work, they come to you and say, you come and work for me. You tell me what are your conditions. If we are fine, we'll accept you. So I applied for the first job. After my first job, I have not applied for any job in Australia. They've come to me and said, we are setting up something, you want to do it? And I've said yes or no, depending on my circumstances. But definitely skills like data analytics, international tax, transfer pricing, external audits. If you're working in India with a big four, a lot of big fours transfer their people. So if there's an opportunity in some other country, and if you are in the right place at the right time, they might just pick you and say, can you relocate to Australia for us? So I've known people in Australia who worked for big fours in India and have come directly from Deloitte India to Deloitte Australia. Does that answer your question, Viraj bhai? Thank you.
Indeed.
So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Rajat.
So no problem. So now we'll look at what are the opportunities for aspiring and young professionals. Ankita, your question was, should I drop CA and do CPA? My answer was you complete your CA and then do your CPA. The reason being, once you become a chartered accountant, once you clear your chartered accountancy in India, the CA Institute has got a mutual recognition agreement with CPA Australia as well as CA Australia and New Zealand. So then if you want to become a CA for Australia and New Zealand, or you want to become a CPA for Australia, you just apply for two papers. You clear those two papers and you become an Australian CPA or a CA. And more than that, the CA that we do in India, the information, the knowledge that we get while completing the CA course, you can come here and work in any of these skill sets that I just mentioned. So if you're an Indian CA and you've got work experience in India, then once you are a CA in India, you do everything for a client. You do their bookkeeping, you do their tax, you do their financial advisory, you do their real estate advisory. You can do everything. So you've got knowledge of everything. So then when you come here and you get a job in taxation, you'll be comfortable doing that job. You get a job in auditing, you'll be fine doing that. You get a job in IFRS or accounting and finance, you'll be fine doing that. So my recommendation is you complete your CA and then come to Australia and do your CPA. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. So to young CAs, I want to say the world is your canvas. You have to definitely explore the world. No, be willing and open. Challenge yourself. For 10 years in Australia, when I look back and think whether did I make the right decision or not, today when I look back and ask that question to myself, absolutely I say that was the best decision of my life. Not that I hated India in any way. I am, before the call I was telling Alok bhai ki, if you leave India, what we say here, the Indian community overseas, we always say to each other, well, you can leave India, but India never leaves you. So the Indianness will always be there in all of us, wherever you are located in the world. So definitely be open and willing. Now select relevant elective papers. So thanks to Khyati, when I was having a conversation with her a couple of days ago, she said now in CA final, we have an option where we can elect one paper. So I would definitely say select relevant elective papers. Again, coming back to my point, the most skill shortage currently is international tax, transfer pricing. IFRS is another one that people are looking for. And obviously, we've got the standard ones will always be in demand. Audit, external audits, investigations, risk management, they will always be in demand. But if you qualify, if you're interested in one of these sort of exotic or the more recent happenings like international tax, why is it important currently? Because the boundaries are disappearing. The boundaries are no longer the way they were 20 years ago. Now it is so easy to move around between countries. You can easily go from India to UK. You can go from India to Dubai. As you guys mentioned, you had a session about Dubai before this one. You can go from India to Canada. You can go from India to US. It's no longer, and I can sit here and talk to each one of you without, if you don't know I'm located overseas, you wouldn't know. So that's why international tax transfer pricing, the boundaries are disappearing. Something highly in demand across the world. So if you guys are interested, definitely pursue that. And obviously, if you come here as a student, you can work your way up. Currently, I am mentoring an Indian student who recently migrated here on a student visa. She is doing data analytics, and we're trying to get her to work in a company as a graduate. So you can work your way up from a graduate to a CEO. Who knows? Someday you guys will be founders of companies here. And already so many of us are founders there. So keep an open mind, and the struggle is there initially, but once in these countries, Western countries, you can settle down in 3 to 5 years maximum. And well, let's look at the pathways to migrate to Australia. I'm mindful of the time. We've only got 10 more minutes.
Take your time, sir. There's no rush.
Hello.
Awesome.
Hello.
So, yes.
Hello. Can I speak for a while?
Yes, please.
Myself, Dattatre Meherwade from Hubli, Karnataka, speaking here.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. I am a practicing chartered accountant for last 40 years. We have got good infrastructures, and we have
Yes,
got
sir.
almost 4 to 5 branches also. Can we get outsourcing work, abroad outsourcing work?
Absolutely, sir. As I mentioned, now you can, I'll share the presentation after the meeting. If you go back and click on those links, you'll be able to see the chartered accountants, the CPAs practicing in Australia. And definitely you can maybe contact them, cold call, cold emails. But if you want more details, I'm happy for the committee to give me one more session and we can go through things in a lot more detail. Because
Okay.
today I had to cover a lot of things. I wanted to make sure I cover opportunities for every section.
For getting outsourcing, is that requirement that we have to clear one more any course like that?
No,
CPA
no,
something?
no.
Not
So if
required.
you're working as an outsourcing partner for an accountant located in Australia, then the
Okay.
accountant in Australia will have all the licenses and certifications.
Okay.
So you are only giving them work that they are asking from you.
Yeah. That's what I am
Yes,
interested.
yes. But if you are servicing a client in Australia, then you will need all the relevant licenses, insurances, certifications, and everything.
Okay.
So my recommendation is you start by providing service to an accountant. So that way they will help you set everything up in India,
Mhm.
right?
How
So
to go
they'll
about that? Can you guide?
definitely, sir. Next, well, at the end of the session, or even Kathy can share my LinkedIn details with you.
Yes,
And
sir.
if you send me a message on LinkedIn,
Yes,
I
sir.
will give you the details.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best. And good to know you have been in practice for 40 years.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So coming back to what are the pathways through which you can migrate to Australia? So 30.8%, and I think Kathy mentioned, Indians are the second largest ethnic group in Australia, which is true currently. And very soon, in the next few years, we are going to be the largest migrant group. Currently, we are behind Britishers. I think in the next 7 to 10 years, we'll become the largest group of migrants in Australia. And so 30.8% of Australia's population currently is born overseas. And I think this is only behind Canada. So a truly multinational country, multicultural country in the true sense. And coming from Mumbai, it really helped me because Mumbai, we've got a similar, although we are Maharashtrians, Gujaratis, but we've got all kinds of people living in Mumbai. So that was really good when I migrated to Australia and I learned that it's a multicultural, multi-community country. It made my life that bit easier. So what are the different ways that you can come to Australia? Well, obviously the simplest way is getting a visitor visa and coming here for a couple of weeks, months, whatever works for you. Just having a look around, understanding how it all works. But again, I do not recommend. Obviously, you come here as a tourist, enjoy the scenic beauty and scenically beautiful country. No, I've not seen a more naturally beautiful country in my lifetime. Although I haven't traveled so many countries, I've at least traveled 10 countries. So one of the most beautiful countries that I have traveled to. The other option, and this is a very good option, is a working holiday visa. So you can come here on a holiday visa, but you can still work in Australia. So the link is there, and you can click on the link, and it will tell you the details of what kind of work you can do if you're here on a working holiday visa, whether it suits you, whether it doesn't suit you. It will obviously you'll have to incur expenses, living expenses to come and live here. You'll be spending in AUD, but you'll be earning in AUD as well. The third option is the permanent resident visa, and this is the option that I always recommend. Is I will quickly in 1 minute share my journey. So I qualified in India and I worked in India for 5 years after I qualified, and then eventually migrated to Australia with a permanent resident visa. I applied for a PR in December 2013, and I was expecting that it will take them at least 12 months to come back to me with a response. And especially because it was Christmas, December Christmas period, no one works here in these Western countries. But in 2 months, I had the visa in my hand. So they recognize your qualification, they recognize your experience, and they understand if you come here and you are aptly qualified with relevant experience, then they are looking for those kind of people. Because as soon as people with the relevant skill sets land here, they are going to start earning. And as soon as these people start earning, the government is going to get taxes. And these people are going to buy houses, they are going to buy properties, they're going to buy shares, they're going to contribute in a meaningful way to the economy of this country. So, permanent residents, I have an article on the finance story that I've written, which in detail explains the procedure for a PR visa. So I'll share the link to that article as well. But very high level, the way it works is you clear your IELTS with a minimum score of 7 bands, apply for a skill assessment for your chosen occupation. For example, if you are an internal auditor, your chosen occupation becomes an internal auditor. You apply for an assessment, they will assess and come back to you with a yes or a no. Once you get a positive assessment for your experience, you submit an expression of interest to the Australian Immigration Authority. All this is done online. Everything is transparent. Everything is explained in detail on their websites. I put the links there. You can click on the links, go there. You do not even need agents to migrate to get your visas. It's that simple. But if you want, obviously you can hire an agent. If you hire an agent, make sure the agent you have hired is a MARA registered agent, a MARA registered agent, who are officially designated by the Australian immigration authorities to act as agents on their behalf. So once you apply your expression of interest, they will, if they accept your expression of interest, they will invite you to submit an application for permanent resident to Australia. Once you submit your application, within a couple of months, depending on your skill category, they will come back to you with a positive or a negative response. Once you get a positive response, from that day onwards, you need to get a medical test done and a police clearance certificate from India. Once that's done, you can come to Australia and live here for the rest of your life. As a permanent resident, you are entitled to all the benefits in India, except that you cannot vote until you become a citizen of Australia. Sorry, Australia, not India. So until you become a citizen, you cannot vote. Other than that, as a permanent resident, you are entitled to all the rights equal to a citizen of Australia. So that is the reason I always recommend to anybody who asks me, and I get at least 2 inquiries every month from Indian chartered accountants or Indian accountants on what is the process or what is my view on them migrating to Australia. So I always say, come here on a PR, your life will be much easier. We have a lot of people who come here on student visas as well. But once you are qualified as a CA or a tax accountant or ICW or a CS, I would say just come here on a PR, because then you don't have to worry about other things. If you come here on a student, your rights are limited, your struggling period is a bit more, and No, it's if you have the option, come here on a PR. The approximate cost for a PR in total, including your application fees, agent fees, IELTS, certification, XYZ, will come to about 3 lakh, 4 lakh rupees per person. So if you're coming here as a family, husband and wife, and you're putting aside 5 to 6 lakh rupees, or maybe 6, 7 lakhs, could be a bit higher now for your PR. And the last option is student visa. As I said, people do come here on student visas. They can get admission into Australian universities. They can pursue a postgraduate or master's degree in an Australian university. And then once they're done, they can start working here as a graduate in the company and then work their way up. So, but for people like you, people who are professionally qualified or looking for professional qualifications in India, I always say come here on a PR. So on that note, I would like to stop myself and open up to the forum for any questions.
I had one
We have a
question.
question from Ankita.
Okay, continue.
What are the opportunities for masters in accounting?
There's definitely an opportunity. You can easily come and pursue a master's in accounting from a university or even from CPA or even CA I think offers a master's in accounting. So not that difficult, easy. And you can apply online and you can get through quite easily.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else has any questions? Kindly unmute yourself.
I had one question. Acha, Rajat bhai, what should be the gestation period if a young professional wants to settle in Australia and start his practice? What should be the gestation period as per your experience?
Start his practice.
Yes.
I like it. Now, I would, if you want to do that, Jaideep, I would suggest. So, are you already in practice in India?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
I
already
would
practicing. I
suggest.
am just asking this question out of curiosity for helping all the young professionals.
Agreed, agreed. So, if you think of migrating and then getting into practice, it will take another 5 years for you to set up. 3 to 5 years at least, because one, you'll need local certification. So you'll need a certificate of practice from CPA or CA, or there's one more accounting body here, I can't recollect their name. So one, you have to clear the CPA CA exams. Two, you have to apply for the certificate of practice. So you'll have to do an internship with a local accountant.
Okay.
And only then you'll get your COP. And once you have the COP, then depending on what area you choose. So if you're choosing taxation, then you don't need a tax license.
Okay.
If you're choosing financial advisory, you need a financial advisor license.
Okay.
So depending on your field of choice, you need
So for
licensing.
each field, there is a separate licenses are there. Okay.
Unlike India.
Yeah.
So India,
Okay.
if we are a CA, you're doing everything.
Right. So it
But
is again
here,
what you would say, it is a plus point for India or it is plus point for Australia?
if you're asking me a question for yourself,
Hmm.
I'll say my recommendation is start an outsourcing practice first.
Hmm.
Once you build that practice, come
Okay.
here and live here. Because
Okay.
once you have an established clientele, then you don't have to worry about cash flow when you come here.
Right.
You got the
Okay.
cash flow,
Hmm.
then you just come here and set up. Then it might take you a year or 2 years to get your licenses and everything else.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, definitely.
So many opportunities in Australia for next 5 years, you see accounting mate.
Right.
Lots of
Definitely.
opportunity.
Hello, Sam.
100%.
So Jaideep, okay, good. for young chartered accountant?
Hi, Manthan.
Hello, sir. I'm Anthan here. Sir, I have a quick question on data analytics. So, I'm pursuing CA. I have cleared my Group 2 CA final. Only one group is pending. And post becoming CA, I'm looking forward to other opportunities as well. But there's one university, Deakin University, if I'm not wrong. They've established their campus in Gift City in India as well. And specifically, there are only two courses. One is IT related and then one is data analytics. So I am keen towards going towards new sector of data analytics. Is it recommended post becoming CA? Uh, because for taking an entry in even the job markets, employment markets in India for data analytics, it is bit tough. Direct.
Sorry, Manthan, what's your
Manthan,
question?
Manthan, you went on mute.
Yeah.
So is it
Manthan?
recommended doing? Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Manthan, can you
Yes.
repeat the question? You were inaudible in between.
Yeah. So is it recommended doing a course on data analytics from Deakin University, which is already has an establishment in India right now, and proceeding the career ahead, or directly try for opportunities post CA?
Sure, sure. So two options, Manthan. I'm also mindful we've got Nihir as well on the call, who's located in Sydney, and he can also add his valuable insights. So from my point of view, and Nihir, then you can add your insights, please. The two options, Manthan. One is you finish your CA and then do your data analytics from an Australian university. That's one option. And then, well, when you're studying from an Australian university, I guess you'll have to migrate to Australia on a student visa and live here. The other option is you finish your CA, you're already cleared one group, only one group is left. Finish your
Yeah,
CA
I just
in
gave my
India.
examinations.
Exactly. In India, work in the data analytics field for whatever you've got so many companies doing that now. And then come
Yes.
here on a PR under the data analytics skill, which then
Okay.
obviously this will take longer. It will take you at least 4 to 5 years to clear your exams and get the relevant experience for 3 years, which will give you around 80-85 points on your PR application. And then once, well, if the skill set is in demand, you'll definitely get an invite from the government.
Okay.
So you think for yourself which is the better option for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nihir, do you want to add anything?
Firstly, thank you so much, Rajat Bhai. You actually covered like crux of the Australian tax. Like even when I was hearing, I was like, okay, this is something new for me as well. But thank you. It was really great overview of Australian system. I have in fact few points. I thought I'll cover it in the end once you finish your session. First one with regards to your question, Manthan, even I believe that you first finish your CA course. Like CA is basic for us. Once you finish your CA course, then you can plan for data analytics. Yes, data analytics is currently big in Australia. There are heaps of jobs. There is heaps of opportunities in Australia. A few of my friends and colleagues who have done, in fact, IT and then done masters in data analytics currently in Australia. So there is a bit change, but yeah, there is heaps of opportunities. One question I saw in regards to masters of accounting in the chat, whether there is an opportunity or not. Just with the background, unlike Rajat Bhai, I came on a student visa in 2017, so a different pathway, and then I did my masters of finance from a university in Gold Coast, and then continued my career. During that path, I understood like masters of accounting, they won't accept it because we are already a chartered accountant. So they won't consider masters of accounting while you apply for that. And also, I would suggest while for your applying for permanent residency over here, it's better to apply Masters of Finance. So that was a different pathway or different area of expertise as well. So if I'm not wrong, the question was from Ankita. So I hope that helps. Again, the second question was, can we do CPA? So what I believe is ICAI is currently has a tie-up with CPA Australia, and you can in fact give your CPA Australia exam from India. So you don't have to fly to Australia and give your exam. So that's a good thing. You can give your CPA exam from India without worrying about, where I'll stay, expenses. Staying in Australia is also very expensive over here, rent and food and stuff. So that will save up your money. One question was in regards to the property. So what I understand is with regards to non-resident buying a property in Australia, you need an approval from some FIRB authority or something. So you need an approval from a government authority. And secondly, you might have to pay an extra stamp duty over and about a normal resident would be paying it. So I guess it's 8 to 10% more compared to a normal resident over here. Other point I would like to add is, for practicing chartered accountant who wish to set up or who want to, get a client from Australia, networking is very big. As Rajat Bhai mentioned, networking, in connecting with CAs in Australia and, getting connection. That's very, very much important, I would suggest. And few of the platforms I really want to add is one is there are different chapters across Australia. So as Rajat Bhai was part of Brisbane chapter, so I'm part of Sydney chapters. There are different chapters in each state. So the people in these chapters are basically CA like us, who are Indian CAs, who have experience of both company, having Indian experience and Australian experience. So I would highly recommend, to be connect with them and try to, contact them and try to understand how they can help, because there are CAs who are practicing already in Australia. So that's a good platform you can connect. Yeah, so that was but I would say, Rajat Bhai covered everything. So thank you, Rajat Bhai. It was really a good session.
Thank you, Nihir. A very valid point. The chapters and the people within those chapters are also very helpful. Sydney chapter is way bigger than Brisbane. Brisbane is a tier 2 very small city. So Sydney chapter is way bigger, and when I first landed in Sydney, a lot of members there helped me in finding the first job. So
Yeah,
definitely very good people.
very currently there are 400 plus members in Sydney chapter. So
In
it's
contrast,
really
Brisbane chapter is 30 people.
30. Yeah, so I'm also part of Brisbane chapter. Earlier, I worked in company in Brisbane, so I was part of Brisbane chapter,
Oh,
and now I
perfect.
moved 2 years back. I moved to Sydney. So
Yes.
in summary, basically there are heaps of vacancies and opportunities in Australia, and you just need to try to connect and understand how you can apply your visa thing, and the opportunities. But yeah, there are great opportunities in Australia.
Awesome. Well, in the
Thank
chat, I can see a question from Nikita. Nikita, I'll
so there is
connect
a
with you
question
on
from Ankit.
LinkedIn.
There is a
Yes.
question from Ankita, sir. What's the difference between data scientist and data analyst for commerce students? As many universities are offering data science courses.
Well, Nihir will be able to explain that better.
Now, I'll try because I'm not from that background. But what I understand is data scientist is more in detail compared to data analytics. So data analytics would be using the system and analyzing the data, but the data scientists are more I would say detailed and knowledgeable. They have more uh, they need a professional, I would say, to be a data scientist. So it's
Agreed.
two different profile as such.
So to add to what Nihir mentioned, a data scientist will look at the end-to-end data management. So from creating data tables, organizing those tables, to data analytics. Data analytics is a subset of data science. So data analytics, the person is only analyzing the data and making it sensible for the business. What does this data mean to the business? As a data scientist will help the business from end to end.
Can
So
be
how to
described
capture the data?
can be described as vision and mission, right?
Absolutely.
In short.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question from a student, Miloni Rangparia. Is it worth doing CPA after CA if we do not wish to migrate and reside in India itself?
Not necessary unless you want to work as an outsourcing partner for an Australian accountant. Then definitely it will help, because that will give you an idea on the Australian laws and regulations. But if you're living in India and you want to pursue CPA, unless you want to do it for your own knowledge, you do it. Otherwise, in general, well, CA India is way more detailed than CA anywhere else in the world. And that's a credit to our institute. A credit to our institute on the way they have structured, and obviously our senior members being part of structuring the course and the exams and all of that. So definitely once you do CA in India, unless you're migrating to some other country, you don't need to do any other.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
And
right.
one more question from Gaurav.
Yeah, Rima, go ahead.
Yes, Alok, sir.
Hey, go ahead. I like. You go ahead. You go ahead.
One more. Okay. One more question from Gaurav. What preparation should we do before contacting Practicing CPA Australia for outsourcing work?
So again, it's like anything else. When you are going and approaching someone, how can I sell myself? So what is your current capability? How can you know convince the other person that you are capable enough to get work from them and do it? So in terms of, you can highlight what you are currently doing. Well, you're doing a taxation practice. If, for example, if you're doing taxation practice, then you're filing tax returns, you're providing tax advisory to individuals, to corporates, to NRIs, to you're doing indirect tax. So how can you basically sell yourself to, and be honest and upfront that you understand there's a benefit for you, but you also understand there's a benefit for them. And what you expect from them is some support and training for them to bring you up to speed with the Australian requirements.
So in continuation to that question, like here in India, we use Tally, Excel, and maybe Winman, like are the systems that we use here. Are they also being used in Australia? I'm sure Winman is not being used, but other maybe Tally or Excel, or do we have to build on other skills that are more, say, friendly when it comes to Australian accounting if we are looking for an outsourcing opportunity?
See, in terms of accounting systems, definitely it's MYOB. Zero is the biggest.
Okay.
ZERO. But in terms of, if you ask me, Excel, we use Excel in our everyday life.
Okay.
So when we do audits and investigation, we use a software called iAuditor, which I think India will have a similar. I think India's got Auditly or something like that, which is similar to what we have here. Sim taxation softwares similar to Winman, they've got softwares here as well. Here it's a bit easier. So in India, filing a tax return or bookkeeping for a client is a bit more complex than the way it is here, because the laws are a bit simpler. they're different, but a bit simpler. For example, as I said, GST, so uniform rate of 10%. You don't worry about it unless the item is is an exempted item or is an exception and taxed at a higher rate. Whereas in India, you're worrying about CGST, SGST, this and that, and the tax GST rates are varying from 5% to 18%. Whereas here, if it's a standard product, a standard service, it's a 10% GST. And the payroll system here, they call it one touch payroll. So when you're doing, if someone's a self-employed or practicing and hiring their own people, then when you're processing their payroll, the payroll data is auto-populated in the tax data. So systems are interconnected and interfaced with each other. Whereas in India, we still have to manually get those figures. So a lot of it, once you start getting into it, you realize there's a lot of automation, a lot more automation than India. And once you get a hang of it, it's a lot easier than India.
Thank you, sir. Alok sir, you had a question.
Rajat bhai, please let me know. You must be knowing the actuary over here, actual shine, people who do the actuary work over here. How that opportunity in Australia over there? Suppose if they would have completed actuary over here, is there any opportunity in Australia?
Highly short skill.
Oh.
If you apply as an actuary and if you have the right experience, you might even get a job while you are in India.
Okay.
So before you even get your PR, you may get a job.
Okay.
So I have a friend who's an actuary.
Okay.
I didn't mention actuary because we were talking accountants.
Yeah.
But she's an actuary. She works for one of the insurance companies here. Neer might know about them, Suncorp. We migrated at the same time. I got a job after 3 months. She got a job the day she landed here.
Oh.
So highly in demand. Very few people with the same skill set. But provided you have done your actuary in India and you've got a couple of years of experience in India,
okay,
then you can easily get here.
Okay, thank you so much, Rajat.
Last question. Sorry, it's getting dark here now.
Oh. So I think
Rima, you're on mute.
Sorry. I think we have cleared all queries. So moving ahead, thank you, Rajat sir. A very, very informative session. Right from studies to visa to migration, job opportunities and professional opportunities. And it's all backed from your own personal experience. A 360-degree view we got from you. Thank you very much. And I would also like to thank Nihir Sheth sir for his inputs in the same. Well, at the start of the lecture, Rajat sir told that Indian CAs are recognized everywhere. So this statement at the start and even at the end, you are told the same thing. So this statement is still making us feel proud, and I am sure that it will be a motivation for the aspiring CAs as well. And on a lighter note, the direct tax rates in Australia are quite high compared to the Indian rates as of now. So we have more opportunities for tax planning over there. Yes, and today we have also been joined by Seen Hirshit as he already gave his insights. I would like to ask a quick question to you, sir. Nihir, sir, that what was your professional journey and overall experience in Australia as a CA?
So, Rima, I came on a student visa in 2000. So I did my CA in 2015. I cleared in 2015. Then I worked for a couple of years in Big Four companies. And then I always wanted to come to Australia. I don't know how, but it was always a dream. And I applied for my visa, permanent residency. But in 2017, 18, I guess it was that period of time wherein getting PR was very difficult for accountants. So I waited for 1 year and then I applied for student visa in 2017. In couple of months, I got my visa. I landed over here, and then during my master's degree over here, I always wanted to be close to our fraternity, our accounting and auditing. So what I was doing is I was always pitching to small CA firms in Australia, wherein I get some experience, maybe few months, 3 months, because we have a limitation as a student to work only for 20 hours per week. So not any companies or big fours or any corporation will give us a proper job. So I was trying to apply for a couple of small firm, which luckily I got it. I worked for a couple of small firms and I got an experience in Australia, how the system works, how the taxation, how the actual processes works in Australia. So which helped me. And as soon as I finished my master's in 2019, I got a job, full-time job. In fact, I got this job while studying. So I applied for a company, and as a part-time basis, I was working over there, and then it made a full-time. So I worked for the company for almost 4.5 years. So in that, I was working as a finance and operational manager, so looking at end-to-end finances. So the company was into manufacturing as well. So the operation side, payroll, and all finance and accounting stuff. Then I got an opportunity in Sydney in Fuji Films as an auditor. So I moved to Sydney. And then currently I'm working in Zurich Insurance as a senior auditor in the internal audit team. So as Rajat Bhai mentioned, there are heaps of opportunities. Like, I don't have to think whether I'll get a job or not. With CAs, with a background like a CA and having an experience, definitely will get a job in Australia.
Okay. That's good to know, sir. Thank you very much, Niyeshet, for enlightening us with your experience. Now, before moving to the final vote of thanks, I would like to make an announcement on behalf of MCTC. We will be conducting an event on recent amendments in Form 3CA and 3CD, and important amendments in GST for the year 2019 and 2020. Under Sri Rajubai Choksi Oration Fund on 9th of June 2024 at Durga Devi Saraf College, Malad. We will be enriched by our learned speakers, C. Avinash Ravani and C. A. Janak Vagani. It's free for MCTC members, and for non-members, there is a nominal fee of rupees 300. We would request all to take the opportunity of the same. Now, I would request Advocate Jaideep Sonpal, the Vice President of MCTC, to give a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Rima. Thank you, Khyati, Alok Bhai, Sachin Bhai, once again for giving me this opportunity to share words of gratitude to our today's speakers. Well, this year we started with opportunities for accounting and tax professionals and consultants in Dubai, then UK, now Australia. Well, the term ocean of opportunities sounds to be real now after attending these webinars, and these webinars are conducted by Indian professionals. So which gives a proud feeling that India is overtaking world now in all aspects. Coming to Rajat Bhai, before coming to Rajat Bhai, I would thank Viresh Bhai, who recommended a wonderful speaker and suggesting wonderful speaker on the topic. And now I also extend a word of thanks to Nihir Bhai, who was a surprise package, and for sharing his experience. CA Rajat Bhai has given a strategic outlook on how to start and plan your entry in Australia for professional setup. Also mentioned about challenges. So a young professional can be ready to face challenges and be prepared to get established in a planned manner. So all will agree that Rajat Bhai has comprehensively covered the topic, which will serve as a torchbearer for all professionals who are willing to settle in Australia. And I'm really short of words now for Rajat Bhai. Thank you, Rajat Bhai, for your valuable contribution. And this will help a lot to all young professionals. So thank you so much for giving us time and sharing your experiences. Thank you.
Oh, thank
Rajat Bhai,
you.
thank you so much.